The air in the Hollywood Hills is thin, but for Will, it's suffocating. We open on a drive that feels less like a reunion and more like a descent. Will and his girlfriend, Kira, are headed to a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife, Eden, in the very house where they once raised a son who is no longer alive. The trauma is immediate. A dying coyote on the road serves as our first dark scene omen. As they step inside, the atmosphere is uncanny. Eden and her new husband David are radiating a peace that feels artificial, almost medicinal. They are surrounded by old friends, but the house itself feels like a museum of a life Will was forced to leave behind. In these opening 15 minutes, pay attention to the way the camera lingers on Will's face as he maps the changes to the floor plan. The furniture is new, the lighting is warm, but the shadows in the corners haven't moved. The hospitality is aggressive, and as the wine begins to flow, we start to realize that this isn't a dinner party, it's a ceremony for something we don't yet understand. The social fabric begins to fray when David introduces the outsiders, Pruitt and Sadie. They don't belong to this circle of friends, yet they seem to hold a strange authority over the hosts. The night takes a sharp turn into the bizarre when David gathers everyone to watch a video. This isn't a vacation reel, it's a recruitment film for a group called The Invitation. We watch a woman take her final breaths in a state of manufactured bliss, surrounded by a man named Joseph. This 15-minute stretch is where the psychological warfare begins. Eden tells the group she has purged her pain, but Will sees it for what it is, a dangerous denial of reality. The group begins to play a game called I Want, where secrets are spilled but the honesty feels rehearsed. As a viewer, you should feel the walls closing in. The dialogue is polite, but the subtext is screaming. Will is being gaslit by his friends, told that his grief is a weight he needs to drop. But in a room full of people pretending to be healed, the only person who is truly awake is the one who refuses to stop mourning. Tension shifts into pure paranoia as the house becomes a physical cage. Will notices the small, calculated moves David is making. The front door is locked with a key that disappears into a pocket. The windows are barred. The cell service is non-existent. The house, once a place of safety, is now a tactical environment. Will wanders the halls, finding a laptop with a cryptic, threatening video and a red lantern sitting on the patio like a silent alarm. This section of the night is a slow-motion car crash. We see Will's internal collapse as he tries to warn the others, only to be dismissed as unstable. The arrival of the late guest, Choi, provides a momentary relief that David quickly smothers. Every time the camera focuses on the red lantern, the dark scene aesthetic should be at its peak, stark, high contrast, and ominous. We are watching the transition from a psychological discomfort to a physical threat. The red lantern isn't just a decoration, it's a signal to the hills that the cleansing is ready to begin. The mask of the perfect host doesn't just slip, it's torn off. As the main course is served, David brings out a specific, expensive bottle of wine for a final toast. The atmosphere is thick with a terrifying sort of peace. This 20-minute sequence is the heartbeat of the movie. Will's desperation reaches a boiling point, culminating in him smashing the glasses before his friends can drink. This act of violence is actually an act of salvation, but for a moment he looks like the villain. Then the truth arrives with a seizure. One guest drinks, and the philosophy of the invitation is revealed in its purest, most violent form. David and Eden aren't just trying to share their peace, they are trying to share their death. They believe that by killing their friends, they are liberating them from the burden of life. The narration here needs to dwell on the horror of that logic, that the ultimate act of love, in their minds, is a massacre. The dinner table, once a place of connection, becomes the site of the first execution. The lights stay on, but the dark scene has fully taken over. The house erupts into a visceral, chaotic struggle for survival. Pruitt and Sadie, the cult's enforcers, begin the systematic culling of the guests. This is where we see the contrast between Will's grounded survival instinct and the cult's hollowed-out fanaticism. The geography of the home, the kitchen, the master bedroom, the hallways becomes a map of trauma. We watch Will and Kira fight through the spaces where he once held his son. The violence is quiet, intimate, and devastating. Eden's descent is especially tragic. She is a woman so broken by grief that she allowed herself to be convinced that murder was a mercy. In these 20 minutes, the cinematography uses the house's architecture to trap the characters in tight, suffocating frames. Every corner turned is a gamble, and every shadow could be a friend or a killer. The invitation is finally being fully realized, a total, uncompromising end to all pain. The nightmare doesn't end when the sun stays down, it expands. Will and Kira manage to survive the night, emerging from the house into the cool, silent air of the canyon. They find a wounded Eden who finally realizes the gravity of what she's done. But as they look out over the Los Angeles skyline, the true scale of the invitation is revealed. The camera pans across the hills and we see them, hundreds of red lanterns flickering on hundreds of patios. This wasn't a local tragedy, it was a coordinated city-wide cult event. The dark scene is the entire world. What is the true cost of a life without pain? If we choose to cut out our grief, do we inevitably cut out the very thing that makes us human? Perhaps the horror isn't the trauma we endure, but the lengths we will go to pretend it never happened. Eden didn't find peace, she only found a different kind of void. Thanks for joining me in the vault for this deep dive. Next time, we're stepping onto a ship where time itself is a trap. We'll be deconstructing the infinite, soul-crushing loop of triangle. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dark Scene Archive and keep an eye on the shadows. You never know who's waiting for an invitation.